Alexander Cole had built his empire on precision, on cold calculations, on the kind of discipline that never left room for distractions. Every day of his life had been governed by schedules, spreadsheets, and the relentless pursuit of control over markets and money. On a sweltering summer afternoon, polished cars rolled past downtown, and the Glass House Bistro buzzed with muted conversations in French and Italian. Cole, as always, was in his reserved corner, dressed in an immaculate Armani suit, his laptop open, Bluetooth pressed to his ear as he barked into a conference call worth millions. Numbers were his language, profits his rhythm, and the Glass House Bistro his sanctuary, a place where he knew the world could not touch him. The clink of fine crystal, the aroma of roasted espresso beans, and the hush of velvet chairs confirmed the illusion that everything was perfectly controlled. Until it wasn't. At the edge of his vision, a shadow appeared, far too small to belong. A barefoot 6-year-old girl, dressed in worn clothes and dusted with grime, shuffled toward the counter. She did not look up, but whispered a request for day-old bread, so faint it might have been overlooked entirely if not for the sharp, dismissive words of the owner. She was thrown out as if she were dirt on a shoe, vanishing from the restaurant as quickly as she had appeared. Cole's eyes flicked up briefly, registering the injustice, then immediately returned to the glowing screen of his laptop. He tried to ignore the image of her small figure walking away barefoot across the marble floor, attempting to drown it in the logic of numbers, contracts, and stock deals. 40 minutes later, deal signed and money secured, he closed his laptop, his heartbeat steady, his pride intact. Yet the vision of her trembling form lingered in the corners of his mind. Stepping out into the street, the air hot and alive with traffic and pedestrians, Alexander's routine momentum faltered. A voice, fragile and trembling, rose from a narrow alley beside the bistro. The girl was there again, kneeling by an overturned trash can, cradling a piece of moldy bread as if it were sacred. Her lips moved in a prayer of gratitude for the meager food, her head bowed, her small shoulders hunched under invisible weight. The words she whispered, asking for her sister not to cry that night, struck Alexander deeper than any market crash or boardroom betrayal ever could. He felt the cold, rigid walls around his heart shift, crack, and crumble. Driven by a force he did not fully understand, he followed the sound into the dim alley. The shadows clung to cracked brick, the stench of sour garbage heavy in the air, yet Alexander moved quietly, his usual dominance rendered irrelevant in this place. He saw her clearly now, kneeling beside the trash, her fingers tracing the edges of the mold-covered bread with an awe that defied reason. She was not just eating, she was protecting hope. In the corner, half hidden, was another smaller child, clutching a ragged blanket, eyes wide, silent. Alexander realized the child in his sight was not alone. This small figure was a sister, and the responsibility she bore went far beyond her age. As he crouched near them, the older girl revealed the existence of a third, even younger child hidden in the shadows. Alexander's chest tightened. 3 children, barely surviving, forced to ration moldy bread as if it were treasure. Their names were Maya, Leah, and Ivy. Alexander observed them with a growing awareness that nothing in his life had prepared him for this. He had been a man who measured value in wealth, power, and control, yet these children demonstrated courage, loyalty, and love that no amount of money could quantify. Maya, the eldest, had been taking responsibility for her sisters since the death of their parents. Leah, timid yet wise beyond her years, and Ivy, the youngest, barely 2, relied on her siblings for safety and care. Their home was a fragile structure of cardboard and plastic sheets, held together with desperation and ingenuity. The sight of it made the empire Alexander had built feel hollow. He realized that his life until now had been an endless pursuit of security and dominance. Yet here were 3 fragile beings who had survived on hope alone, creating a family and a system of protection within the harshest circumstances. The moldy bread, the alley, the survival of these children became more real and immediate than any boardroom victory. In a moment of clarity, Alexander understood that wealth was meaningless without humanity, and control was irrelevant in the face of love, trust, and responsibility. Alexander made a decision that would irrevocably alter his life. He took the children into his care, providing them safety and stability, while maintaining the delicate balance of trust they had built among themselves. He could not simply impose his world upon theirs. He had to earn it through consistent acts of protection, nurturing, and respect. The transformation was not immediate, nor was it easy. For Alexander, the challenge was not financial. It was emotional, ethical, and deeply human. He had to reconcile the calculated life he had led with the unpredictable, raw existence of 3 children who had known nothing but survival. The arrival of Child Protective Services, orchestrated partly by his sister Victoria, brought further trials. They scrutinized Alexander, questioning his capability, painting his acts of love as impulsive and irresponsible. Each child, separated in an instant, cried for the family they had known in the few days under Alexander's care. He faced the system with a determination he had never applied to any business negotiation, understanding that this battle was not for profit, but for life itself. Legal counsel, strategy, and persistence became tools in a fight that measured value not in numbers, but in the preservation of family. Court proceedings exposed the stark contrast between Alexander's genuine care and Victoria's calculated manipulation. The children, despite their young age, testified in ways that revealed the depth of Alexander's commitment and the authenticity of his intentions. Maya spoke of protection and trust, Leah of comfort and guidance, and Ivy simply of safety. The weight of their testimony, coupled with the undeniable evidence of his consistent care, turned the tide. Victoria's arguments collapsed under scrutiny, her motives of inheritance and control exposed. A ruling granted Alexander temporary custody, with adoption proceedings to follow, uniting the 3 children and solidifying a bond that could not be broken by legal technicalities. With the legal battles behind him, Alexander dedicated himself to creating a life that would honor the resilience and spirit of Maya, Leah, and Ivy. The Bread of Light Cafe emerged as a testament to transformation and hope, replacing the sterile. In short, the townspeople dream of always working in harmony. Exclusive bistro he had once frequented, with a space of warmth, nourishment, and inclusion. The smell of fresh bread, the chatter of children, and the sight of shared meals replaced the aroma of overpriced espresso and the murmur of polished elites. It became a sanctuary where every child could feel seen, valued, and safe, and a symbol of Alexander's complete shift from measuring success by wealth to measuring it by the lives he could impact. Alexander Cole's journey from a man consumed by ambition to a guardian defined by love and protection was both painful and liberating. He had lost comfort, faced familial betrayal, and endured legal scrutiny. Yet he had gained the true measure of fortune: the laughter, hope, and safety of 3 children who had taught him what it meant to care without calculation. The Bread of Light Cafe stood as a monument to this transformation, a tangible representation of the power of compassion, empathy, and human connection. Each day, Alexander witnessed the miracle he had once been blind to: the restoration of dignity, the healing of hearts, and the creation of a family defined not by blood alone, but by the unyielding bonds of trust, love, and shared survival. In the end, the empire Alexander Cole had built on precision and control became secondary to the life he created on vulnerability and care. A single moment in a dusty alley, a prayer over moldy bread, had dismantled the walls he had spent decades constructing. That moment ignited a change so profound that it redefined his understanding of success, responsibility, and humanity. Alexander had discovered that true wealth is not counted in currency or influence, but in the lives touched, the souls protected, and the hope cultivated, the children's laughter, the warmth of shared meals. And the promise of safety became the richest legacy he could ever leave. His life, once ruled by numbers and contracts, now flowed in the rhythms of love, protection, and the quiet miracles of daily survival. The Bread of Light Cafe, vibrant and alive, embodied that transformation, offering a beacon of hope where hunger, despair, and neglect were replaced with nourishment, community, and the enduring certainty that no child would ever have to pray for mere bread again.